Actually, Ryan, I think, sent me an overlay that fixes that little F1 bug there. But anyways, game number 2 currently underway here in the Lycan League. It's the second hour of the Lycan League Legacy of the Void tournament, and in the bottom right, he's currently behind in this series. It's XKT's Red Terran Miso. And I feel like at some point, we're going to have to stop just saying XKT and just be like, guys, it's Miso. But yes, because it gets brought up in chat frequently, this is one and the same.
On the top left, as the blue Zerg, it's a Gosu user for X Millennium. Okay.
Is it though? Like, I guess probably. I remember there was like that awkwardness we had where we didn't know if he was still on the team or not, and he didn't either.
That's a little awkward.
Yeah.
Well, I think they officially let him go, so there's that. Yeah, well, we have a hatchery in, you know, the location that's supposed to be, but still, maybe no. Okay, that was a gas cancel.
I like how this is the judgment. It's like, well, he's building it at home. He's keeping it in his pants. He's being a very well-behaved boy this time around. But I actually really like this SCV scout out of Miso. Like, this, more so than the Reaper, it was, after what just happened, he needed to see if anything was going to be up to no good. And, well, he does see the gas timing here. He saw the hatchery at home.
Mm-hmm. Well, he also wasn't starting off with a Reaper anyways, so it makes extra sense that he scouts with an SCV. I guess this is going to be for just a very fast factory, and maybe for a Cyclone Rush. You know, Hellions used to be the way that you always had to go in TVZ, because they're just so helpful. They stopped creep, they could take on queens occasionally, they helped you against Ling attack, counterattacks. They're very useful, but with Roaches being one of the biggest ways to open, either just Roaches with Burrow, Roaches turning into Ravagers. It's kind of like up in the air where Hellions really are the wisest move. It still looks like he's going to go for them. Maybe go up to Starport as well for Banshee support.
Okay, so Terran's got the 111, classically known for, right? Zerg's not going to have the RRB. Roach, Ravager, Burrow.
Yeah, okay. That's, you know, it's not an acronym that says anything, though, so it's not really, you know.
I'm just saying, it's kind of clever, whatever. I do want to talk about the mini-map, though, because we promised you guys we would. Someone in chat, part of the comments, what's up with the miniature map? I know he's trolling a little bit here, but for those who don't know, the reason, it looks fine right now, sort of, because this map's got darker textures. But a lot, I don't know the thought process behind this entirely. There's some thoughts that this actually leads towards letting you see clumped up units better, things like that. But the actual minimap itself had player like dots, like the alpha was toned down, is see-through now, sort of, and it's the transparency sucks in my opinion. Honestly, we cast HOTS the Alima League just this past weekend or past week, and it felt so good looking at that minimap compared to the Legacy of the Void minimap. I have no idea if they have plans to keep it like this or improve it, but right now on some maps, like Echo for example, you just can't see anything. The textures are horrible, and this is not something on our UI or the overlay or something custom to Base Trade TV. This is just Legacy of the Void. It's even like this when you're playing.
So it was not for Hellions, but rather just for more Marines off of that barracks. So maybe a tank Marine drop, something you'd see more in TVT than any other matchup. But of course, you know, with being able to pick up siege tanks, it's a lot more awesome.
I definitely think one of the things I like about the siege tank change, though, is okay. There's kind of the cheesy stuff we've been seeing, where you grab 2 tanks and flying behind like the mineral lines, right? I want to see this come into more effect. But honestly, siege tanks defensively, siege tanks offensively. I mean, just using them normally, repositioning them. I mean, siege tanks' greatest weakness we've always talked about is the fact that they take so long to unsiege and move. This cuts that out entirely with good control. Now, we are going to have a bit of cheekiness from Miso as we see, heading up towards that third, maybe going to scoot right past the natural. But without Mutas coming out right away to defend this, it's going to be really annoying for Ghost User to actually catch it.
Yeah. With Disruptor drops and now tank drops, going up to Mutas seems to be kind of a necessity. A good Queen defense can also take care of it, surprisingly, if you just make sure to focus down the medevac. But obviously not as easy as having those Mutas. And you see here, not focus on the medevac, then maybe lose the Queen.
Just that should actually be able to reach from left to right too if he just keeps putting that back and forth. But yeah, Queen's gonna pick up that medevac, and if not careful, this could be a very expensive drop from Miso.
Yeah, just keep it right there. It's okay. It's all safe. It's all right.
It looks so funny, by the way. How can it do this? But I guess if it can pick up a Thor, it should be able to pick up just about anything.
Yeah, Thor probably weighs a lot more than a tank.
Could be hollow on the inside, though. We don't know how future technology works. Oh my god. Here's how you solve the problem, right? One tank doesn't have the DPS to kill the queens, but 3 do. This looks a little bit silly, but the Spire's not quite done yet for Ghost User, so this is gonna be annoying to deal with. Now, unless the drones are stacked up and you're really not paying attention, this shouldn't ever really cause too much damage, because Siege Tanks just have this weird fire dynamic to it. But as we see, the Link's trying to flood in, just picks up the tanks, not a problem.
Psych. Oh, the Spire's about halfway done, but these queens have stand no chance against 3 tanks. Oh, Spore Crawler, whoopsie.
I wish the tanks could fire like this. I know we talked about how it would blow the medevacs out of the sky, and the shockwave would go nowhere, but it looked so funny. Like, to get one shot off and just spiral to your doom. Totes worth it. But you're gonna use the terrain, or try to at least. Doesn't actually get rid of the Spore Crawler.
Yeah, you can take out the Spore Crawler, just a lot more mobility here as he goes from base to base. If he's lucky.
One of these things is really low too.
That's some control there. The Spire's almost done. This is putting Miso in more and more of a timer now. It looks like he's going to go into tank bio, which I think certainly is... I would love to see people try and see if this is going to be viable as it was in Wings Liberty. In Heart of the Swarm, with mutas, Widowmine's always going to be the better choice. But now that they're so, like, it could be an option. It could be good.
I'm loving this too, by the way. So many... Okay, finally gets a tank, but look at the resources lost. I mean, okay, it's mostly Lings. Not a big deal. But it's just cool to actually see a Terran player be able to trade this effectively without having to get lucky with Hellions or get abusive with some sort of just catch your opponent off guard trick. But gonna try and get these tanks out of here. Sadly, Medevacs cannot outrun the Mutalisks, so unless that boost comes off cooldown soon, these tanks are probably dead on arrival.
Yeah.
In fact, just unload them and transform them into normal mode. You might have a better chance of getting him out alive. But looks like Misu's going to take those losses.
It's less about the tanks, in my opinion. Although, since he is going tanks, that's actually still a pretty big deal. But more about the medevacs, too.
Agreed.
I mean, that was very high gas cost.
I would agree. It's not coming to a big effect right now because we do have the engineering bay down, but I want to remind you all, for those who don't know, you don't need engineering bays for turrets anymore. You need barracks. So, if this was something where Ghost User catches Miso before he starts teching, it's still not that big of a panic. Miso is actually not going to respond to this. Going to try and bring Ghost User back home by attacking. Not a bad move, but we'll see if this ends up causing too much damage to home. I mean, losing reactors is a pretty big deal. Everything gas-wise, basically gas was already expensive in StarCraft 2, but it's a little more valuable now that there's less of it available on the map. So things like reactors dying are not quite so simple to replace.
I'm just poking up the Marines and we'll send them forward, but
That's
the
a lot of
tanks
Ravagers.
aren't sieged. Oh, this won't go well. No. He has no Marauders. He thought it was going to be Ling, Baneling, Yuta.
Miso was completely caught off guard by that. And the tanks, probably if he was just thinking more on the ball, that would have been a quick pickup in the medevacs, reposition the tanks, have them pre-sieged. But you're right, they weren't sieged. They were in the middle of getting sieged. He lost about half of them right away. And he does manage to save this one barely. I don't think the Marines can hold this, though. They can barely take the shots without the combat shields. In fact, that Ravager shot will one-shot the Marines. 60 damage versus 55 health. Still going to be hard to deal with. But he's just pushing in. He's got the damage. Squishes the Marines. Tanks are dying to the mutas.
The Marines are doing a surprisingly good job. A lot of that frontal force has, just gone away. But he was up by like 60 supply. Still is, in fact, up by 70 as he reinforces with 17 more roaches. I think Miso got completely caught off guard by what tech is actually chosen.
I feel this kind of reminds me a little bit of HCO Mario versus Nurchio we saw last week, though, where Mario had spent so much time focused with those tank drops, he wasn't ready for the follow-up. And I'm not going to say it was to the same extent here, but it definitely felt similar where he just really was not prepared for the roaches because he was thinking Ling Bei Muta. And I think this is more of one of those Legacy of the Void things. Compositions are going to be changing pretty drastically, and he may have gone into autopilot following that up. GG. Ghost User, ladies and gentlemen, will take down the Korean in advance in the brackets. Who does he fight next? This is going to be the question. Nazjamaz.